Now, you're welcome back to the show. So, 33 years of age, on the go with Kilkenny since 2007. In that time, 7 All Ireland titles, 10 Leinster titles, 5 National Leagues, 4 All Stars, Hurler of the Year in 2014, and one of the great hurlers. And happily for Kilkenny fans, he's going again in 2022. That's the word anyway over the weekend in various outlets. Richie Hogan, how you doing? Great to have you on.
Thanks very much, Joe. Delighted to be here.
We saw those reports over the weekend, and so we said we'd reach out for a chat. You are going again?
Yeah, I suppose that's the plan. And I don't know. I kind of take it week by week almost. So happy to go back into a bit of preseason and see how it went. But yeah, starting just see how the body feels. I took an extended break this year more so than I would have previously. Yeah, back kind of ready to go and see how it goes.
Yeah, I guess that's an easier decision to make, a less momentous one, to just go in and see how it goes, as opposed to I'm committing for the year no matter what.
Yeah, well, to be honest, John, and I'll be very honest, if I can't give what I want to give, I don't really want to be there, and I wouldn't be good enough to be there. And with the way things have gone now, if you're not at the top of your game, or if you're not in physical shape to be able to give everything, it's no place for you. So I suppose, look, I'm happy to see how it goes, and if I feel that it's not working out, myself and Brian will have a chat, and it'll be an easy enough chat, and I'll just move on and do something else.
And this largely comes down to how your body's feeling at this stage.
Yeah, I mean, fitness wise, I'm pretty good. I've gotten into a couple of weeks of training just since Christmas. I got married before Christmas, so I kind of took an extended break around then. I thought I'd be a bit worse, but just injury wise, we can get a clear run at it. Fitness wise, I've always been pretty good in terms of maybe athletic fitness and in the gym and all the rest of it. But it's kind of it's everything else that goes around it. It's that kind of recovery rate, and our game is such an attritional game, so hits and knocks and muscle injuries like hamstrings and back issues and stuff like that. If I can get an extended period of time, I'm pretty sure I can get a good run at it.
And have you, at this stage of your career, I presume the answer may well be your back, but have you identified a root cause of reasons why you get muscle injuries and those niggly hamstring injuries which kill those vital 4 or 5 weeks for you at times?
Back issues. So I've had everyone knows at this stage I've had pretty bad back issues since about, I think, like 2016 or 17, and it's just kind of extreme wear and tear. Everything kind of stems from that. If you're under pressure in that area, something else is compensating for it, and with the way our championship works, because it's squashed into a certain period of time, and it's not like a Premier League where season runs from September to May, and every game is important. Obviously our most important games all come together. So being in a position to be fit at the right time of the year, it takes a lot of work. So but most of it stems from obviously a couple of back issues, floating down to hamstrings then, and something is under pressure that shouldn't be. But it's trying to manage those things.
Yeah, I'll bet. And the back can be a mysterious thing and very complicated. Is it so refined almost now in your mind that you might know, oh, my back's just feeling a bit stiff lately? That's a real warning sign that my hamstring's going to go in a week or two? Or is it as a cruel a surprise for you when something breaks down?
No, I would. I try to manage it as best I can, but I would have constant back pain. So it's not as if it's not as if it's not. It doesn't come up.
It's
every
not like
now
it's
and
an
again,
unusual
yeah.
occurrence, right?
No. So it's just that bit of. So I know it pretty well now at this stage, and I have seen kind of the best of the best, and they've all told me I'm doing as much as I can do, which is great, and kind of reassuring, and saying that I'm not doing any damage either, which is also reassuring. So none of that is really important to me at the minute. It's just trying to get the best out of myself and get a clear run. But yeah, I have a great relationship with physios and with doctors and with management, and I know that sometimes if it means that there's a session where it's all skills and it's constant twisting and turning and constant rotation, that's something that would bother me a good bit. Best way I could describe it is, I don't know if you get that sensation when you grind your teeth. So I can feel that grinding sensation in my back constantly. So, get up in the morning, if I move left or right, I can actually hear it or feel it. I can feel the joints almost grinding off each other. But when that gets inflamed, I just take a break, see how it goes. Sometimes, you need to push on because, you might be the week of a match or whatever. And sometimes a game is particularly difficult, or the type of game, if there's a lot of hits, just that recovery period, I just need a little bit longer than everybody else.
And when you get into a match and adrenaline's pumping, are you a free spirit then? Are you back to how you felt 8-9 years ago?
Yeah. I mean, I suppose the great thing about it now, Joe, is, you don't have to go off of, I feel, X, Y, or Z, because, I mean, we're all hooked up to GPS, so the stats are there in front of you. So you know that you're running as fast, running for longer, it's covering X amount of high speed meters, you're on the ball X amount of time. So it can give you a great bit of confidence. It can also bring it back down to earth as well when you think you're going well, but you're maybe not affecting the game as much. But I find that a big help, that, I can look back over a period of weeks and say, well, do you know what? I have X amount in the bank, which I know I have, and somebody else has been monitoring that for me. So that gives me and I can also compare that to others. So you're comparing it to yourself, but at the end of the day, you're playing against other players and you're competing with other players for your place. So, if those stats kind of line up well, obviously I have the experience and I have the confidence and I have I have those couple of years in the bank that I know I can produce if I can get my body in order, get onto the pitch.
So just to kind of bluntly summarize things for listeners and just jog everyone's memory, take the last couple of years, 2019, it's the All-Ireland final, it's the red card. That was the last time I spoke to you, actually, the week of that red card. And that was where I really realized how bad your back had been when you were talking about even physio to go and do skills sessions on your own. But that was 2019. And then 2020, lockdown comes, and it seems that afforded you an opportunity to get your body right. And you spoke to OTB AM at the end of that year, and you said it gave you a different perspective on training. So maybe an understanding that you can't be pulling and rucking for balls in January before you're kind of 90% fit was what you were talking about then. And you said you were as fit for the 2020 club championship as maybe you'd been at any point in your career. And 15 months after that red card, there's the great goal against Galway and a bit of redemption in Croker. So going into last season, going into 2021, I would have said you must have been very optimistic. And then as it transpired, your only championship appearance is at the end of the Cork defeat in the All-Ireland semi-final. So what happened 2021? Were there injuries behind the scenes, or you couldn't get to a level, or you were flying and Brian Cody just said, look, you're not in at the moment and that's the way it is? What was 2021 for you?
Yeah, a mix of all of those. 2020 ended very late. I suppose where I was in my own head was I took very little rest and kind of tried to continue with a bit of momentum, because I don't know if you remember how the fixtures were announced initially, but it was going to go straight into the 2021 season, where they were going to try and wrap that up, very same as the way it is now.
Yeah.
So I very much tried to continue on. So where usually you might get about a 4-week rest, where you'd be winding down, we were gone straight back into it. And then no sooner had we started than we had stopped. And it said, there's nothing on for the foreseeable 4 weeks. Then it was, it's another 4 weeks. And then it was all squashed in together. So that kind of wore me down physically a little bit, I think, because we were back to training on our own, and where I suppose I felt I had a good bit in the bank already. Obviously, we'd been through a lockdown. I knew how to train on my own. I train on my own regularly anyway, because I'm Dublin based and everyone else is Kilkenny based, so that wouldn't have been an issue. Once we got to league stages, I had gotten injured just before the league started, and I had missed the league campaign in full. And I think I missed I had missed the first round of the championship against Wexford, and it was literally week on week. So yeah. I was really only back in physical shape to play inter-county games somewhere between Dublin and Cork. So
Right, okay.
it's just timing, and sometimes it works like that for you, and it can be difficult. But I'm well used to that at this stage.
Well, hopefully the calendar is a lot more predictable going forward, which will really help someone in your position. What's Brian Cody like in these situations then? Like the kind of the parody or the kind of traditional view would be that unless you're in the thick of things in Nolan Park in a training match where the whistle pretty much stays in the referee's pocket, that you're not a kind of factor in his thinking. But I don't know, as he evolved, and one size training doesn't necessarily fit all. So in terms of going to Brian Cody and saying, look, I can't do what everyone else is doing, that's just not an option for me. I'm going to have to do things a certain way, and I'll tell you when my body's good to go, and you can trust me to do something for you on match day, if not necessarily training wise. Is that an option with him? Do you take that route with him, or is that's not the way things work around here?
I don't know. I haven't taken that route, and I haven't kind of explored that side. For me, that would be probably the case at the start of the season, where I would need more running, more weights, more conditioning before, let's say, we get into the skills area, before we get into matches and training. So let's say the first 8 weeks or so, I would do very little of that, whereas the other players, especially the newer players who'd be taking part in Welsh Cup games and the early rounds of the league, they would need match practice in training. So we monitor that pretty well between myself, the physio, and the management. And I'm not the only one who needs that kind of treatment early on. But certainly once it comes to championship, you need a couple of weeks behind you before you get into a championship season. That's non-negotiable, I think, for anybody. You can probably try and fool yourself and think you're right if you're back for a week. But that's just not how it works. It doesn't work at that level for anybody, no matter how good they are. For me now, does that mean that if I have a bank of work done and all of a sudden I end up having to miss 2 weeks and then I'm back, that's fine. But missing chunks and coming back for 2 weeks, that's not workable. So and I haven't done that yet, and I don't I'm not planning on doing that. But even at the moment, I've started with everybody else. I'm doing the same training as everybody else. We have an injured group at the minute, or a recovery group. They're doing their own tailored training, but I'm involved with everybody else, matches, games. So far, so good.
All right, very good. And like this whole period with the back, I suppose, it strikes me as very tough psychologically. Like this constant, how am I feeling every morning? How's the back this morning? Is it going to betray me tomorrow? And like this probably continual nagging sense that, God, if I didn't have this bloody injury, I know how good I could be out there. I know what I could be doing on a consistent basis. That seems like a kind of a tough world to exist in. And I would think psychologically to find enjoyment in and to feel satisfied with.
Maybe. I don't look at it like that, Joe, to be honest with you. I'm incredibly lucky to be doing what I'm doing. Incredibly lucky. And the thing about hurling, the thing about Gaelic football, the thing about any of those sports is it's a one-time deal. You can't say I'll give it a break and I'll come back. Things will come and go. This is a one-time deal. So I would never look at it in that direction. Cards have been dealt injury-wise in recent years. And it's just, I had a serious run of, 10 years there where I was playing every championship game and felt great. And that's the way it goes. But no, I wouldn't look at it in that way at all.
Good. So it's not dragging at you slowly but surely and in that kind of a way. Because you did say there was a quote in 2017. I was just looking back, and this was around the time when you put your teaching career on hold. You had been teaching in Clontarf, and you kind of said, "I'm going to live off savings. I want to get my body right." That was the focus. And so you were saying at the time, there's some people who need money, who like to be able to live a certain lifestyle, focus on their career, and that's hugely important. But it's just not important to me. I remember saying to one of those life coaches, "If I play to the age of 35 and get absolutely everything out of myself, I'll gladly sweep the streets for the next 50 years. It wouldn't bother me in the slightest."
Yeah. I'm a little bit older now. Do
you recognize that person though? Like that hurling?
I do,
central.
Yeah. No, that's look, and clearly that's not a true statement as such, but it's kind of what I meant to say by that was that's the mindset that you have to have. is that when you're in the middle of training, it is your most important thing. If it's not your most important thing, the reality is you're going to come up against somebody who treats it as such, and you're going to come off second best. So yeah, and I mean, look, balance, perspective, that's all really, really good. And it's really, really important. And I think the better you can be, I think, off the pitch, the better you'll be on the pitch and all the rest of it. We had, I remember, funny enough, around that time, I was speaking to Mick Dempsey, who's brilliant S&C trainer and coach and selector with Kilkenny for oh God, well over 10 years. And I remember speaking to him, I think it was definitely around that time, and I was focusing completely on, well, what can make me better? Because I would be constantly looking at the professional systems where everything is focused on the athlete, getting that person as good as possible. And I said, well, look, I'm an amateur. What can I do? You know, how can I pick bits and pieces of this, whether it's heart rate, whether it's rest and recovery, whether it's monitoring sleep, whether it's, you know, maybe it's yoga, maybe it's sports psychology. And I remember the one thing that he said to me was, it's funny enough, he said, do you know any old people? And I was like, yeah, of course I do. And then he goes, well, take an hour a week or take a half an hour a week to ring somebody who's on their own. I said, you'll get more out of that as a player, or as a person, first of all, and then as a player, in terms of giving you some perspective, giving you, you know, a better outlook on life. And as a result, you'll be a better player. And I thought it was a brilliant piece of advice, which was completely unexpected. But that's just kind of the mindset that players can get into. And being able to step back and look at that in the overall context of things is quite important.
Wow. I'd say I could have given you 100 guesses in advance of what the advice he was going to give you would be, and you wouldn't have got close to that one. Did you follow it?
I did, yeah, I did. And look,
and do you start the phone call by saying, how you doing? I'm ringing you because you're old.
No, and it's not about, and it's not about that. It's about just spending time with, and I would have been like that, wouldn't have contacted friends from one day to the next. And not that they weren't great friends. It's just that,
it's like,
you know, you take those things for granted and you move on, and you do what you feel is important for yourself. But it's about maybe doing what's important for other people and becoming a better person as a result of it, rather than focusing on yourself. I think that's
interesting.
Important.
And if you don't mind me asking, anyone in particular that you phoned that you got something out of? Was it family members? Was it other people? Or
no, just I mean, I would have a huge amount of friends and a huge amount of people that I deal with, local people in Kilkenny, people from college, people people in the community, people that I've come across with. And it's not that I'm ringing with any particular agenda. It's just being able to switch off and connect with people, and you know, have a chat to people that you haven't come across in ages and catch up, and that sort of stuff is important. It gives you a perspective, makes you feel a little bit more human, you know, puts your situation and their situation together, and doing nice things for other people makes you feel good about yourself as well. So, you know, I think that stuff is quite important, and as much as I can.
That's brilliant. I mean, look, I live in a world where if anyone rings me and I answer the phone, I say hello, but in my mind, I'm thinking, what do you want? What's the point of this phone call? It's not just to have a chat, you know.
You're a busy man, Joe.
Well, listen. So hurling is every bit as important to you then, like as opposed to that kind of guy talking in 17. It's still, you know, you're recently married and different things going on, but it's still kind of the thing, is it?
No, I have a bit more of a perspective now. Let's say like career, for example, would be more important. Family is more important. Hurling is really, really important. Or sport, health and fitness level below that then as well.
Okay.
The one thing it is about those who play sport at this level is that you can only do it for a certain period of time. And while you might be at an age and you might say, oh, do you know what, it's getting harder, maybe I might pack it in. I can guarantee you there's a lot of people who are 37 and 38 and said, do you know what, should have done another year, should have done another 2 years. So I'm not one to take regrets. So, and I'm not one to go protecting, you know, what I've done before and say, oh, look, I've X amount done, I've enough done. That's not really, you know, that's the way people on the outside look at it from the inside. But certainly it's something that I'm currently able to do, and I'll continue. Yes,
no, I think that's the right way to do it, as opposed to protecting some imagined legacy or whatever. Your relationship with Cody, Has it evolved or changed over these 10 years? Is it warmer? Would you chat more, or is it still, he doesn't suffer fools and it's all business?
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Like, do we talk more? It depends. I think I'm probably trusted. I'm trusted more because he obviously knows. I have a bank of credit in the bank. That doesn't mean it'll get me on the team, but in terms of, like if I wanted to, if I need to go to a wedding, if I need to go and do something for work, if I need to go doing something, if I was doing some study, it's just, I know that I'm not asking for permission anymore. I am asking for permission, but I'm letting him know. But he knows that I'm genuine about what I say and about what I do. And look, I mean, in the past, I've cancelled trips away and holidays because I saw that there was a fitness test on at a certain time in November or December. So I've all of that done. So he knows that everything I'm doing, I know he knows that hurling is hugely important and getting myself in shape is really important. So I think that part of and that's difficult to do as an 18 or a 19-year-old because you can be skeptical about it. But no, I certainly have, when it comes to training, when it comes to looking after myself, when it comes to off-field activities, I think we have a huge amount of credit in the bank with Brian, and we have that sort of trusting relationship. But no, we wouldn't be going for coffee together or anything like that. It's not evolved into anything like that for sure.
Mm-hmm. I was sorry, this seems like I feel almost like this was sneaky to do. I went onto your LinkedIn page just to see what you were up to. I feel like I should disclose this somehow. So you're working as a commercial manager with GPA, and I saw you're doing an MBA as well at the moment, an executive MBA at Trinity. So that's a big shift from teaching. Why that route and why not back to teaching? Were you one of these intercounty lads who did teaching because it suited intercounty life?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, were you?
So,
right, wow.
Yeah, so I mean that's it, and that's where I'm on about the kind of perspective. And I would have moved, and the GPA were fantastic to me at an important time in my career. I think around 2013. I think it was 2013 into 2014. I would have went back to DCU and done a master's in business. And again, with Trinity and GPA, I'm doing an MBA, which is hugely stressful, but you learn a huge amount. You learn a huge amount about yourself, and you learn a huge amount about that higher level strategic part of business, and you learn a huge amount of that strategic level of sport in it as well. But definitely, would I say I wasn't cut out for teaching? I would say I was a good teacher, but I just didn't really want to do it. I think all of the skills and the attributes that you work on and that you attain from being a sports person, and also I would have been an intelligent kid as well, and did really well in my leaving cert, and did while playing a huge amount of sport, and I would have studied early in the morning. I would have gotten up at 6 o'clock in the morning to study, and then would have gone to school, and then would have been picked up for training by Brother Damien Brennan for training at 4:30, and then gone and drop back home and do a little bit more. So hugely disciplined, brilliant at time management and stuff like that. And it's more suited to that business environment. And I'm much happier in what I'm doing now, much happier having my own timetable. So it's kind of fulfilling elements of my own character, which are really, really important off the pitch.
Right. Very interesting. Best of luck with that. A last word on hurling then. So Kilkenny, big picture, All-Ireland final a couple of years ago, then 2 semi-final defeats over the last 2 years to Waterford and Cork. Where are Kilkenny? You know what it takes to get over the line and to win. And certain areas where maybe Kilkenny have fallen short over the last couple of years. What would be your diagnosis, in so much as you're free? I appreciate to kind of analyse impartially and to speak at a turn. But if there was something you thought, if we just improved X, Y there, we could maybe get over the line.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt that Limerick are obviously a step ahead of everyone else. That's no secret at the moment. But things can change really, really quickly. The difference, I think, now between the hurling championship is if you take Limerick out of it, there's so many, who would win the All-Ireland after that? It's anyone's guess for about 10 teams. Whereas I don't think that was ever really the case. There was the top 2, there was the top 3, there was maybe the top 4. So we're somewhere in that group at the minute. The challenge for us is to climb our way out of that. I think we have the players. Definitely. I think over the last 3 years, where we've come up short is in different areas, and it's about learning from those mistakes. The big thing for us in 2022 is to be better than we were in 2021, and to get significantly better all the time. With the championship format now going back to the way it was in 2018 or 2019, I think it's important for us that we're not maybe going from game to game or preparing for other teams, because there's not enough time. You're from one game to the next to the next. So I think for us, learning as much as we can in the league about ourselves, if we happen to lose a game or if we happen to win a game and don't perform well, where we need to learn from those mistakes, move on, do our video analysis, get our bodies in shape, figure out who's going to make it, who's not going to make it. So for me, I think we have the players, but it's getting all of those together. We've always had the spirit, we've always had the work rate, we've always had that team ethos. So it's about matching what we're really good at and bringing a little bit more. And I think, all in all, once it comes to that summertime, I think we'll be as good as any of them. There's no doubt about that.
As for the game itself, there's no doubt this decade has heralded all sorts of tactical trends and possession increasingly very much prized. When you're out on the pitch, does it feel like a very different game to the one you played first in 07, 08, 09 for Kilkenny?
Yeah, it's completely different. I think that the game has changed hugely. Your role as a player is completely changed. There's skills that have gone out of the game. There's new skills that have come in. I mean, high catching is almost non-existent. The traditional high catching man-on-man is non-existent. Puck outs are now put into space, so a guy can run and catch it almost uncontested. If you look at scores, the majority of the scores are being set up almost like basketball, where everyone's crowded into one area. One guy slips off, he's given the ball, and he hits it over. Obviously, short passing and what guys do with the ball. Less tackling, it's less physical. No doubt about it. It's hugely different. I wouldn't say it's any more skillful, to be honest. I think it's just the way the game is played. There's a huge amount of skill in being able to catch that ball in the sky. It's a huge amount of skill in being able to, get that tackle in, get that hook or get that block in. So it's just a completely different game, Phil, and that's the way sport has gone. It's analysis is driving it. There's no doubt about that. And the game is changing all the time, and will probably continue to change. And
you're unique in that me and most people listening can only give a perspective as a spectator as to whether we like it more or not. So you get to sit on your couch and watch the matches, and you also get to play in these matches. This is too basic a way of phrasing this, right? But just give me bear with me. Is it better or worse?
The game. To be honest, I'm not dancing around this question, but I just say it's different.
Sure.
So there's players playing now who will enjoy that game much more, and there'll be traditionalists who watch it, who want to see the passion and the drive and the tackles and people putting their bodies on the line. And I'm not saying that's not happening now. It is, but in a different sort of a way. It's less attritional. I think we're getting closer, to the way football was in maybe 15 years ago. And we're a little bit behind that. And, it'll probably open up again in terms of, when you defend now, you defend almost in numbers. So if Joe has the ball, he likely won't be hit with a heavy tackle and tackled by one person. He'll likely just run out of space and be crowded by three people, and the ball is flicked and off we go. So different types of games. But to be honest with you, when I started, traditionalists from 20 years before that were saying the game has changed so much and where's ground hurling gone? But I think definitely as a spectator sport, it's probably not as enjoyable because it's there's so many scores. There's a score a minute, if you get.
Yeah.
So maybe that's, from spectators' point of view, maybe that's taking the good out of it. I don't know. From a player's point of view, yeah, it's really the occasion. Once you're once you're in that occasion and you're in that moment and you're in that game, I think it's certainly just as enjoyable.
Right, I'll bet.
Certainly, if we can get crowds back.
Yeah. Do you think there are too many scores in hurling?
Do I think there's too many scores in hurling? I don't know. How do I even answer that? There is an awful lot more scoring, but you're not going to try and stop scoring. I think there's some wonderful defending. I know they're doing stuff with the hurling ball. It's going to make a huge difference if they make the right changes in terms of the grips and in terms of how difficult it is to score. It's certainly easier to score now. There's no doubt about that. The big indication for that is if you see a lot of the players now, they'll play with size 32 hurleys or size 33 hurleys. My hurl is a size 34 and a half, and that would have been the smallest hurl you would have had maybe 10 years ago. So once the ball has changed, you strike a ball now. If you strike a ball now and you hit it hard enough, it'll go straight. So you just aim at the goalpost, the ball will go over the bar. Whereas previously, the balls would have swerved, they would have tailed off. If it was wet, they would have dipped. So as a result, your scores came from 55, 60 yards out. And that's kind of, the equipment has kind of changed that. But look, I don't know, some games are really high scoring. Some teams play a really open style of hurling. And when those two teams come together, it can be high scoring. But certainly it's a different game from the, I think we played some games in the world, there might have been a goal in 11 points to 11 points or something like that. But, different kind of ways of enjoyment, I think. Yeah,
no, really interesting to get your thoughts on it. It's like someone of your stature and with your vision and your technique and your skill and being able to pick passes and catch and move. I mean, I would have said just with a cursory view, that would suit you more than back to the days of, here, listen, win your ball and you better win it against some 6'4" giant who wants to kill you.
Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? But the requirements, I think the requirements for what's for the type of player is different now. So, scoring 5 or 6 points now in a game, and getting on the ball and getting it at one position and flicking it to another guy and then flicking it to another guy, or hand passing it, or delivering a ball in. It's not, it's of less importance now than it previously was. Right. 10 years ago, if you got 3 points from play in a game and you contributed to a few hard-won scores, you would have had a great game. Whereas now you could probably pick off 3 points in the first 10 minutes with the way it has gone so open. So it's about your contribution to the whole game. You're dead right. If it's played in that kind of almost soccer-like, where you're holding on to position and using it and moving it left and right, you can get on a lot of ball, you can strike a lot of ball, and statistically, you can look fantastic. But in terms of your overall ability, you still need to be, still being able to win that harder ball, being able to break tackles, being able to turn over the ball. They're still really important skills, and they contribute to, I think, the team a little bit more.
Interesting. Okay. Final point. You've been great with your time. I presume one of the aims for 2022 is to score a goal against Galway and jog by the Galway dugout and just give a little nod to H. Shefflin.
I don't know.
That's got to be interesting, right? Did you always think he was headed for coaching?
Yes, I did. Yeah. No, Henry definitely was always cut out for management. There's no doubt about that, and did brilliant with the Shamrocks in his time there, and will contribute really, really well to Galway. But I'm genuinely not trying to dance around this either. But it's almost like at this point, it was a novelty thing for a while, but it's completely irrelevant now at this point. And we'll all shake hands and we'll go as hard as we can at each other in championship and league games, and we'll kind of we'll take it from there. But there's no goals to beat Henry, or no goals to beat Galway or anything like that. The goal for every team at our level is the same. The goal is to win the All-Ireland, and whatever way we get there, whatever way we do it, that's the only important thing.
Good man. Well, listen, Richie Hogan, great to see you back for another year. Hopefully it goes well and we see you doing things across the summer. Go well. Thanks so much for your time. Appreciate it again.
Thanks, Joe.